All right, good morning. We have Wednesday, third day of a full week. It's August 21st, 2024. All right, so let's see if we can take a look at what we have on the docket today. We have our earnings here. We have our earnings. I know Target had a nice reaction so far. I was just kind of browsing Twitter a little earlier, just kind of perusing. I think the word is peruse. Really not too much going on here. Shouldn't be anything too impactful from my understanding. We have the FOMC minutes, which should be fairly simple for today. Really not too much going on. There shouldn't be too large of a response to this. The main event is going to be on Friday at Jackson Hole, so we'll see how that goes. And again, we do have our PMIs for tomorrow, initial claims, and then the existing home sales. 5:30, 6:45, 7. And then just a quick look at how we performed yesterday. Again, if you need a reminder, you can look at our day review. We're actually going to look at that ourselves a little later on just to kind of get familiar with how everything has transpired. Let's go ahead and turn on our DOM. I can't think of a spell name, but there you go. Aloha more. There you go. Now it's working. All right, cool. So we'll go ahead and resize this. All right. I'm pulling up my journal on the other page. Just give me one moment. And again, it's going to be fairly light again today. That's the reason that we're just jumping in at the time that we are. We have about 10 minutes. All right, cool. Let's go ahead and start with our typical questions. So, the overnight session, would this be considered bullish or bearish? Just from a quick glance. I'll say this is even. So we're going to say neutral for the S&P 500. And then neutral again for the NQ. What was the place that we're opening from? Yeah, where are we opening from? And what was the objective for the overnight session? And then any thoughts about sentiment as well. Let's look at the market profile for this portion. We have our candle from last week. Notice the multi-distributed high volume nodes, top in the middle. And then we have our Monday and Tuesday from yesterday. Still sort of a P-shaped profile with thinner structure below the value area low. So we're just building volume higher, filling in some of these gaps here, accepting higher prices. So really at this point now, we want to sustain over this value area low for the overnight. And it looks like we've done a good job of that. Looking a little closer, just a normal profile, two-way trading upwards, two-way trading downwards, and then we're revisiting for another higher leg. Overnight low has been intact the whole time, barely, but intact nonetheless. So very nice showing overall. So they did a good job of building their value. Let's see, building volume rather. Let's take a look at the NQ. Same situation. We have our last week, and then we have Monday and Tuesday. Big gap in the middle. I just put a chart drawing here to show their singles that they have remaining for Monday, and then just this big gray zone, which is I would imagine we're going to chop around it. I haven't even touched it, or if we did touch it, it's by maybe like a couple points or a tick at most. So very nice overall. So we're just kind of stuck between this previous zone from the towards the end of July and this gap. Um, or low volume node, this valley that we have here for the weeks composite. We're still looking to test this 20K area, which is going to be for sure heavy resistance, potential resistance to about 2040. I want to see how we respond to that. If we get above there, be curious to see what happens. All right. I don't believe there are any surprises. I have not checked CT News. Have not checked any kind of news block service to see how we're looking, if there is anything really to be aware of. So again, things are going to be fairly mild. I do want us to look at the quote board in a moment, but just looking at the actual price section from the minute candles, really not too much to glean from here. Let's go ahead and bring up other charts. We made a lot of references yesterday to the price actions. We're definitely going to be looking towards the 52.27s and the 56.17s. So from about this range down to, that's funny, that's basically the overnight low. That's where all those sellers were. So we're holding above the, actually we can just see that on the volume profile. My apologies. But yeah, we're holding within this zone here, which is where the majority of the sellers are from the 40K, 43K negative delta for yesterday. Very surprising to see that even on lighter volume. So we're holding in that range as of right now. The continuation from yesterday with the high selling delta on lighter volume. These guys will be underwater and not having any kind of excursion. They're starting off negative. So if that's the kind of story that we're going to go around, that was not the case for the NQ. Again, please watch our video from yesterday. You'll see our thoughts on that. Same situation here, except it's much still light volume, but not as heavy to the downside for the delta, that is. All right, got it.
Block sell.
There was no data catalyst or anything, so no SOCs, no scene of the crimes today. We'll look at the macro side of things. I do want to take a look at the spreadsheet. Just looking here, same thing for the NQ. Before we look at this spreadsheet, just take a quick note of where we're trading. We are literally in the middle of balance, and we're at our above the open from yesterday. So this is just a continuation. Still higher highs and higher lows from our lowest low yesterday. Lower highs, still kind of stuck. Lower highs, still kind of stuck, and we're just now starting to break out above these 32s. So just some context for where we are. Let's get a reminder of the NQ, who are essentially in the same situation, except notice the higher lows through all of RTH and carried into here, but we have not broken above this IB mid, which is where um, the little pivot area is. All right, let's look at quote board just for a quick look. Go ahead and clear out a lot of our little notes. We have tech leading. They're basically even. We have RTOY leading, which is nice to see. Apple is break even. They're unchanged at this point. The only one down right now is Google. We're going to see how they respond. We definitely want to look at Tesla today. They've just been extremely volatile. I have not looked at their chart, but that's what it seems like. Definitely check out Broadcom to see if they're gonna do more this downside trading. Everyone else is fairly bullish so far. So we had a nice open drive yesterday morning. VIX is up 1%. We had an opening drive yesterday morning. If you look at the PX, the price action, we want to see if not. We want to see, but uh, we'll gauge the strengths off the open. See if there's anything similar to here. Because ideally, this is a situation of when what should happen possibly doesn't, because we're very nice overall, very nice pre-market open. We just want to see if that's going to have any sort of continuation. So we'll go ahead and get ready for this opening bell here. I'm going to go on a brief mute. I will return and we'll do a little bit more digging. But again, this is just the price action from yesterday. Leave these on these 15-minute candles. See how this goes. 138-minute candle just a reference. You can see where we're at. Holding above this zone barely for right now. Kind of sticking around, but again, this is a nice markup for potential catalysts that are coming this week. Really not anything else too much at the moment. Ahorita vengo. All right, luckily I was able to make it back in time. We're gonna go ahead and throw on Price Squawk actually, see if I can beat us to it.
Welcome to Price Squawk.
All right, we will listen to the NQ. We'll see how this sounds. Just gonna let everything kind of play out at the moment. I'm gonna review some of my notes from yesterday. I don't have any necessarily areas we really want to do business. This 56, 27s, and 17 are definitely important. This is RTH.
Block buy. Block sell.
So again, we want to see if there's any kind of like open drive behavior. If we have a continuation, or if we see we have an open auction. Again, just see if we can just gauge this open and just see what kind of structure that we're dealing with. We're still opening up into the prior day's range. I would say we have the bulls on the higher time frame that has control on the weekly time frame, on a daily time frame. If we look at the overnight structure, this would be more indicative of balance. Still lower highs and lower lows if you're looking at the since the high of yesterday. So there's a lot of compression here with a lot of excess sellers from the delta. So we'll see how this goes. But as of right now, all bullish on the top three from the top down for structure, posture, sentiment, just the regime overall. Overnight would be basically even, neutral, so just zero. And then we'll see how we're opening. But as of right now, we're just forming in this little range and we'll see what happens. Again, this is going to be terribly light volume. NQ is catching up to the ES on volume, which is always funny to see. We're only at $112,000. So again, this is going to be fairly mild. We'll see what happens.
Block sell. Block sell. Block sell.
All right, we got our first 3-minute bar. Let's see our first 3-minute range. We're going to see how we respond here. A lot of people like waiting, more retail side, like waiting the first 5 minutes. Since they get a little information, sometimes the 15 minutes, of course, the 30, so on and so forth. But just the way that I see things, I like to break up the times incrementally in my head, just understanding what candles are forming for the other time frames without flipping back and forth. I'm just gonna leave this up here actually. Yeah, these have really just been useless for the most part. This 138-minute candle. However, I really like having these. I really like having these. Just a nice reminder of where we are on the higher time frame side of things. All right, so we're still trading around these 27s. We want to see what kind of response we have from here. This is where the big negatives delta was yesterday. We're looking at the open so far. Again, we're not looking at the top four because this is opening since the Globex section. Oops, my apologies. Yeah, we definitely want to see what's up with Microsoft. And really, that's it about now. VIX is up about 2%. Okay. Where is that chat menu? My apologies. I'm looking for something. It's like chat window. Alright, I'm just bringing this up here. That way that saves. This is the
Block by.
all right, and then it'll probably make sense for us to switch these, so please bear with me. Actually, it's a little easier to switch here than it would my DOM. That wouldn't make sense. I'm gonna flip these. Not in that way. That way we have the NASDAQ on the left side, and we have ES on the right. All is right in the world. That way we're not looking cross-eyed. And again, today is going to be extremely mild. So I'm not going to have too much commentary at the moment. Really not too much. Really not too much going on. I just want to make sure that we're just keeping our same process, having this having this be recorded, and just seeing if there's anything that we can glean from here. All right, I'm going to go on mute. I'm checking out my journal, see anything that I can improve on that I notated for yesterday. Just a bit of a review. We did hit our daily loss limit yesterday in all four trades. We did use a little higher size, so that makes sense. But us sizing up on a day with low narrative, excuse me, us sizing up on a day with no narrative, including low volatility and low range, low volume, that really doesn't make sense from a risk standpoint. So we're just revisiting a few matters. If I have any thoughts, I'll be sure to share.
Block buy. Block buy. Block buy. Block sell. Block sell. Block sell.
All right, just doing some testing on my settings. So for this, I'll say we'll give this really wishy-washy, maybe plus a half a point for the down rotation, and then the higher highs and the higher lows. We had like a little inside bar here in the impulse, and then we're starting to give back some of this candle here. We're not done with the 3-minute bar, so we'll see what happens. But you're seeing more of like the leaking for the NQ. So it's really not too much to see. Buyer delta was positive. They were trying, even though it's positive, we're going down negative at the point. But you can see more of the selling delta is still creeping downwards with no progression to the downside. Really, we're already back up, and this is more. We're still at those. We're above the 56.27, which was a key area for yesterday's sell imbalances. All right, we'll go ahead and look at the quote board. Very nice from Amazon, plus 80 basis points, minus 30 for Microsoft, Tesla, which kind of unchanged, and Broadcom is selling down a little bit. So we'll go ahead and take a snapshot at this 15-minute mark and see how do we go from here, which is near the HOD for RTH, or I'm say near the IB high. So we'll see how we respond from this point. As of right now, this would be a open test drive. The buying here, appears to be like a retail. Appears to be retail. Just the just a little flurry in the pace that it was coming at, but we'll see. Ooh, nice. It's interesting to see. We have some passives that are holding this up too. Yeah, looks like we're just looking at an open test drive. We'll go ahead and throw on our studies now. Same situation here. All right, so we want to be on the lookout if we're gonna get a open auction. If we end up near our mid, if we end up being unchanged, or if we have more of like a downward skew. Really not too much happening right here. We'll zoom out just a little bit. Actually, it'd be better if we just do it this way. So you can kind of just see where we're at. We're really just sitting sideways. We're just at the higher portion of that range. See if we're going to get a breakout. Or if we're just going to have more compression. Nice-ish volume for the ES for their first 15 minutes. Ended up being about neutral. Just a little sellers left over. Not the best positioning. Same situation for the NQ. What we'll want to see, well, we don't know if those are, still open positions, if there are offsetting trades, what their intentions were with those more aggressive sales. What if we put it inside of a narrative? They're not really having much return on their investment. So yeah, we're just in the middle of the range. I don't think there's really any specific targets for either side. We're gonna move over quickly. We're ending this 3 minute candle in 5 seconds here. We're gonna switch over. Just another glimpse at where we're at. Really nothing too much, no targets for any side really. These 40s are a high volume node for the S&P 500. We do a composite high volume node. We have that overhead structure, and then really just some gaps. Really just some gaps below us. It's really not too much support besides these 27s that we saw. Then I'll say maybe fill in these gaps here. These like the 5590s, I believe, right? 55.99 and then the 90s. Low volume node. See if we get in there and possibly build some sort of volume. We're not gonna look too much at the NQ because we already have their zones there. Just a reminder of where we're at. This makes sense for me to have it in this manner. Yes, I do like this. Good job. All right, we're at the 53-minute mark. 7 more minutes into the end of the bracket. As of right now, we're holding above this 5 smoothing average, holding above our DGPs.
Block sell.
The open is at the mid, so this would be a situation where, not that we're bullish above, bearish below, but as regarding positioning, it's important to see who has more of their control or the continuation. We are above we're trading near the overnight high. Same situation for the ES, including the open comment whether we're going to stay above or we're going to stay below. A possible open auction from what we've seen. And with our open auction rules, we'll need to possibly wait out the next bracket or just be severely hesitant. Not severely hesitant, but just be mindful of where we're positioning ourselves. A possibility for balanced two-way trading. So just have some, yeah, just be mindful for your risk management. Take a look at this quote board. Really, not much should have changed. But we're just sitting sideways, so we're gonna look at these differences. Again, really unchanged here. Russell is selling off just a little bit. Nvidia, yeah, people are just taking a break. Meta is still pushing pretty well, along with Google. So communications is doing extremely well right now, actually. It's nice to see. And then Tesla, the ones we've been looking at, are holding strong. They're up 70 basis points. And then we have down 50 for Broadcom. So the only ones negative as of right now for the sectors would be healthcare and finance. Industrials a little bit within this over the past 10 minutes. But overall, we're still pretty bullish with our main negatives being kind of just scattered.
Block
Berkshire's,
buy.
Eli Lilly, Broadcom, a little bit of Microsoft. That's why we're getting this wishy-washy type of action. So it looks like we're going to test this upside. We came with some velocity. We're going to see if that's going to be continued. We're only, and again, this is at the start of the 5 minute candle. So I'm curious what this look like on the five. Yeah, pretty deceitful. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a potential burst through here. We're seeing some of these bearish bars that are reverting towards the end. And again, no catalyst, nothing too much to be aware of. Kind of just floating around as of now. Again, all time frames are going to be bullish. At most, we have um, neutral for the overnight posture, but this is we're beginning to make well, we've made higher highs with another higher low within this sequence. We got 3.5 minutes left. We're trying again with these highs. Nice 3 minute close. We have 3 minutes left.
Block buy.
Those are the stops, and then we have continuation. Looks like we're going to get a fairly strong close with our nice open test drive. Using support of our range from the overnight session to propel ourselves price. When I say R and we, I'm referring to price, being one with the price. But we use the support below us as a nice launching point with a test with a test higher. We'll see how we respond. Again, that was just more trading. If we close the bracket below the overnight high, I think that would be a sign of weakness for us to fall back inside of this range. Again, we're not going to have massive intensity and urgency with this type of action. There's really no reason. We have no catalyst. We're kind of just drifting around right now. This is just be more day traders. We're not seeing any situations where people are just severely stuck. Nothing that's just completely obvious or glaring. So anything else would be too speculative. So we must sit on our hands as of right now. I'm kind of doing some orders here on simulation, just kind of testing out some ideas and my and just my execution of them, bracket orders or what have you. Speaking of that, that is the end of the A bracket.
Block
Very nice
by.
close, and that's some of the urgency that we're referring to.
Block by.
See, we didn't see that intensity a while ago. My apologies, updating some settings. Actually, let me put that back. Points. Again, the same situation. I would imagine we don't want to get back into that overnight high range. There's really no reason from the bull standpoint. Looking to seeing what has happened since then. Tesla's actually went up and then taken that break. It's interesting to see. We still have a minute and a half left of this candle. We may not finish in this manner. We'll see. Looking at our higher time frame, you can see where we're at. So it's important to have this here so we're not flipping screens. We're just back into that range here. It kind of burst above, has had a few stops, but again, another lower high for the NQ. Really not too much. I'm sorry for the ES rather. That's that high volume node that we were referring to. We saw a nice little rejection, and now we're seeing some passive sellers come in. I actually may be a part of this.
Block by.
We'll see what kind of response we have. See if we have this continuation. We still have a lot of ads that are piling up. All those passive sellers were able to get filled. So I end up going in on 56.38, primarily due to the lack of forward momentum in this lower range. We're not really having any kind of excursion. If we break through and we're just continuing to hold, we'll just possibly get out because that's what got us into the trade. So that's like a 5 point stop. But that's more for like emergency purposes. So we're really looking at above this 38s and we're starting to creep back up again. Burst through. Do we have a potential support, or do we kind of fall back down? NQ is still pushing upwards, that is. Yeah, it feels like that the ES is kind of spinning their wheels. Really don't want to see us pass those 39s. They're definitely putting up a fight to stay up here. NQ starting to lead us back up again. We'll feel a little more comfortable if NQ starts leading to the downside. But they're staying sturdy as of right now, which is definitely going to support the ES. And then we will look for a flush. And then basically like a hold. So I'm putting my stop above the 39s. I'm gonna do it at the 40 actually. We really shouldn't work our way back here. NQ is
Block
already pushing
by.
back up. Got another 15 seconds. 10 seconds for this 1 minute candle. We test it down and we're ending bullish. I ended up getting
Block
out.
sell.
It was a 2 tick loss. And again, this would just be simply just playing a range with the continuation from yesterday. We had an attempt there, but wasn't too comfortable with the way that the ES was trading. What got us into the trade was no longer happening. We're seeing more lifting of offers, and that was that. That was this section here with the 38s with the high delta. And just a passive seller that was there just hoarding some contracts. See, we hit this quote board, take a snapshot of where we're at. It's kind of like this little right at this eye behind, a little above for the NQ. Oops. I did not mean to do that. All right, see where that's where we were at a while ago. It's like let's just call it 708. So again, we went to the short side primarily due to the potential look above and fail. We're seeing some more of that action here, but yeah, I couldn't justify the 5 point stop. We didn't get too much above those 39s, which I don't believe we did at all. So maybe a potential paper hand from our performance yesterday, which definitely wasn't the best. But I don't feel too comfortable holding these downside trades, these short trades, with us being as bullish as we truly are over all time frames. We have some nice volume on the NQ building at those 90s, these high 90s. We're still above these five S, our five smoothing average. So we're trying to get a nice little trend going up here. Not the most
Block
progress.
sell.
Definitely seeing some support for the bull case. At most, this would be maybe like a little positive past zero. It's maybe like a half a point.
Block buy.
Another 15 seconds to the end of this candle. And I like how the low of the RTH session is above those 27s. All right, that's that creeping behavior. We're gonna see what happens. Not that same intensity that we saw a while ago. But who cares about the intensity? Because we're at the highs and we're trading above. We're still over the overnight range for both sides. We're kind of sticking to it for the S&P 500. Got another 15 seconds for this minute candle. Trying to get above yesterday's range. 2 seconds. Volume is incredibly low still. Pardon this pop up. All right, we having another leg up. They're working together now. 'We got about a minute and a half until we have this 15-minute mark. 20 seconds for this minute candle. And we got about 35 seconds until the end of this 15-minute countdown, which is going to show a rejection. Definitely on the
Block
NQ.
by.
I mean on the ES rather. Okay, very nice. Let it all out. See if we break that low. We're at support
Block
area
cell.
for the NQ. At this RTH VWAP. We're back at those 20s areas. Ooh. Alright. We're still in that 20 zone. Again, you look up here. So we had all those negative sellers. Those sellers, not negative sellers, but the sellers from yesterday. We want to see if we're going to have a continuation there. This is the bounce off that potential support zone. VWAP open, IB mid. Just a lot kind of going on there. We have,
Block
oh, I'm
cell.
not sure what this looked like on a minute candle. It's nice to see ES and NQ
Block
doing this
by.
together. We got another 20 seconds. We'll see how they finish.
Block by. Block cell.
We rise up, and we get kicked back down a wee bit. With a very nice response from the buyers. Bounce off that support area. Or just those the DGP challenge, let me say that. Wasn't too much of a pullback for ES. Just kind of pulled back to that range that we were scoping out yesterday doing our homework. I'm gonna see if there'll be any kind of continuation from the buyer side. Now this is a
Block
different
buy.
intensity than what we saw a little earlier. So yeah, we're just back to where we were. But they came back with some friends. They went to their trunk and got some help. And what it seems like, we really can't glean too much from this quote board outside of the just more sellers, and they're starting to stop out. I'm assuming. Looking here. All right, so I mean, I ended up taking it long there at the what was this? This was at the 52s.
Block sell.
After we ended up taking
Block
the
buy.
spike through the support area, pretty much held this open. I ended up going long again on our way back up. I did an accidental one. I did two on the first one. I meant to, it was supposed to be one, but I ended up taking profit basically at the 82s and then basically 20 more points above just for just a little extended target or flat again. Just taking profit just with this balance range. We just want to look for a position to get in for a pullback. So the way we shot down, oop, my apologies. The way we shot down seems more of like a bid pull, just really aggressive. We'll have to go back and look at it on the replay. But it was definitely some nice volume towards the highs. I'm sorry, it's nice volume towards the that low point. And as we were building volume down here, we ended up having a push up with a little small leg. And then we ended up pushing back down. And then on that retest back down, we ended up going long once we started kind of shaking off some of that selling pressure and kind of pushing back upwards. We're really working on our timing on when to
Block
get in
sell.
on some of these pullbacks. And these are micro pullbacks that I'm speaking of that we're looking at on the actual DOM regarding like selling pressure. So again, as we go back to this range up here, it seems like we're a little bit of a wishy-washy somewhat, but still with the bullish tint, given that those prices below were considered cheap. Pulling back to the IB high, just the first 30 minutes, able to bounce off that area between there and then that 5 smoothing average for the NQ. So we're definitely attempting to trend if there's something that can be continued, and we're for sure back up on the ES. So that looks very similar to a play that we do have, but it's not really under the same context. The just like a big reclaim of these DGPs like that. We're just so compressed. I mean, you can do that in 2 points. That's not the same thing as coming from the lows and going back into the lower third of the range. Totally different situation. We understand that with our playbook. We were looking at that yesterday, I believe. All right, so we're finding some two-way trading over here, but again, we're not letting it slip too much outside of that rug
Block
pull
sell.
that we had a while ago. Okay, now we're starting to push down and not filling those gaps. There we go. So yeah, we're having some actual intent now. So I would imagine this would be definitely zero, maybe
Block
starting to
buy.
be negative half a point. All this is relatively light volume. Again, this feels like this is just like day traders for the most part. I actually need to save my jigsaw. There we go. I did the switch. Yeah, so as of right now, I would say again, remember the first the higher time frame we're bullish, intermediate time frame we're bullish, on the daily time frame we're bullish, on the overnights portion we are balanced neutral. Just making sure I'm finding the right words. We're balanced somewhat neutral. Looking into the RTH, we have a open test drive and we found support in the middle of the range for the NASDAQ with our open. And we found a pullback to the under our range, which is still within our area of interest from yesterday, which is where we had a lot of sellers. I'd imagine there may be some offsetting of risks with 43,000 contracts to the negative side. We don't know how many is going to be left over from the prior day's range, prior day's activity, but still will be some nonetheless. I'm gonna lock our account as of right now. Anything for it, I don't see us too enthused for a sell side, given the reaction to the from that open test with NQ, and even just getting below our range. We never closed below our range for the S&P 500. With that being said,
Block buy.
with that being said, I'm thinking if we have some sort of a candle later on, I believe it may need to be under the impression of an initiative candle, and we kind of play around that. But given that this low volume kind of range, I'm not really too looking forward to doing that too much. If anything, we just had like a small pullback while I'm sitting here talking to this open of these 72s, and we're having like a nice little excursion upwards, and we're not anywhere near we're still in the upper half, trading above this IB mid for ES. So ES looks good in its own way as we had an open test drive above. Once we got above the open price, all of our trading has remained up there. As soon as we got below it, we fought our ass to get back to it, and now we're staying above, even staying above the midpoint for the whole initial balance. So very nice overall from a narrative standpoint. We do have some passives chasing this down. So you would ask, who is this? Is this people trying to get out of their positions? Will we see some more urgency to the downside because, oh no, I don't want to experience this again? These breakout traders, or is that people trying to add to the selling pressure? I'd imagine these are just going to get filled. But what's going to happen after they get filled? Are we going to see everybody run through the same door? Because this is stacking. This is kind of fluctuating here. These are passive players. What actually trades there? 90, 100. So 20% of that level disappeared when it was time to party. Look at this structure for the S&P 500. We're not trading above the IB high at all. Just interesting to see. Finding support off that area of interest yesterday is nice. We don't get paid by the hour. We get paid, by execution and the preparation that we do. So now look, notice that we're seeing lower highs and lower lows after we ran up here and kind of fell short. But again, we're still above this impulse range. We're still above this impulse range, especially this bull body candle. This is really nice from the S&P 500. Not really nice. Let me not say that. This is a sign of strength that we're not having any pullback to the our of the market's narrative that these prices were considered cheap for this day. Not only were these prices considered cheap for this day, for the RTH, but these prices aren't too bad. We're agreeing on price above DGPs, and we're about at the same position for both sides now at the IB high. Who's going to lead us out of here? I think this would be a very nice narrative point to wait. Okay. Let's take a quick look, looking at the differences here. Actually, let's see. Actually, let me go ahead and put this in. All right, I'm glad I got. Yeah, this is why I wanted to hurry up and get this. Yeah, we're not trading above the IB high. Something had to give. So it would be possibly interested in buying this again, but not on the second time. So we're gonna see who's doing who's leading us down here. We can look at that a little later on. We'll see how we recover. Then again, this may be the same situation where we trade again and protect these, but at this point, NQ is a little weaker. We saw a little glimpse of NVIDIA leading us down, I believe.
Block sell.
This is a different situation. We gave that little pushback to that candle in the last few seconds, opposed to us shooting down here in the first minute or so and eating it back up for the second minute and then really supporting it for that final third minute. If I recall, that's how this first spike candle went. And it may be the same situation. This may happen again. That's all fine and dandy. This is just a different trade here. Let's have to wait and see what happens. If anything, this would be a nice pullback to this impulse candle here on the S&P 500 because we did notate that they were a little sturdier and not giving as much pullback. That would be your one time you have price discrepancy. And if these prices are truly cheap, you should see a bounce here and urgency back to the upside. Now, is it sustained? Who knows? It's not really for us to call. But you want to look at that close retest at the 5630s. I kind of remember what it looked like. We were building volume. Something I had to look back on the dome. So, man, that would have gave you a good. Actually, we won't theorize on points. We'll stick to the narrative.
Block by.
Again, I think that's incredibly important for us to realize that we were retesting that impulse low with the quickness. We ended up bouncing back up towards the last little bit. We tried to test it one more time, found support again, and now we're seeing some sort of continuation. Really not too much. I'm honestly just looking at my phone at this point. I'm not worried about this. Again, the narrative still stands. We're still closing above this IB mid for the ES, which is I believe this would be bullish because we're holding above the open.
Block by.
Any test below her is considered cheap.
Block by. Block by. Block by.
And it's that urgency towards the highs. We have some passives that are coming in. If they
Block
don't get
by.
filled, they're gonna
Block
have to
by.
add to it.
Block
There
by.
you go. Nice. I think we did a good job following that narrative. Again, we're not going to talk about potential trades. We're just following the auction. So where are we at here? We're busting through that high volume node on that other side. We're above the prior day's range. We'll see how much auction we have above. At this point, I am for sure not looking for anything to the short side. Oops, my apologies. Absolutely nothing to the short side. And then the buying side, I'm not too for sure. Nice with the continuation. This candle should end in 5 seconds, I believe, for the 3 minute. We'll see how we respond. Oh, I'm sorry, we're at the yeah, this is at the 7:30. So yeah, another 45 seconds, and then we'll be at the end of this 3 minute candle. So this is the action that we were expecting to see yesterday, but we need to do a little less on what we expect. Though I'm grateful that we are here today, we have a better understanding.
Block sell.
Notice the passive
Block
sellers
by.
that just got easily filled. And we're already kind of trading back above. We're going to see if we run out of some buyers there. That was a nice way to get a 500 contracts at one price.
Block sell.
See if we're going to pull back to these 38s. There's just a lot of volume here at these highs, these former highs for NQ. So no surprise if we don't really trade too much lower from that area. I'm really not the most experienced from trading with trading these breakouts here like this. So we're just gonna just kind of wait. Just gonna kind of wait for now. I'll do a little bit more on the pullback. That pullback to that down spikes close for the ES made sense for us. If I recall, the yeah, just the narrative that we were creating from the MGI, market generated information, just made sense that the prices were a little cheap. And once we had a final visit for that on the NQ, I mean for the ES, it's like, all right, cool. This is the time. Let's see if we can go back and have another opportunity to buy. There was an opportunity to buy with the volumes. They stuffed the
Block
sell side.
buy.
We fought our way back up. We had that same intensity as we did prior with the aggressiveness and the urgency. We kind of coiled for like a minute or so, and then just a nice impulse that brought us through these highs. In Q at that time made a higher low, retesting their open again, closing closing back above their full session VWAP, and then once more test the IB mid just to double check, and then close there. And that's when we noticed that the ES was still closing above their IB mid. At that point, they took off.
Block buy.
And we're not looking to head back here. I will say that NQ is getting somewhat close to this 20K point. I'm
Block
curious
sell.
to see if today is going to be the day where we have that potential action. At this point, we will want to see if we are looking short. This would be a situation where we get into that range, we have
Block
like
buy.
a nice rejection, and then possibly some sort of
Block
a
buy.
not a nice rejection. We have a just a lack of willing to sell or buy rather at that 20K mark. If you look at our zones that we have up here, I just want to see if we're gonna
Block
have
buy.
a an ask pool. If we can just drift up there, I just want to see what kind of reaction we get. If anything shows up, or if we have like some heavier players, checking the volume, and see if there's something we can possibly stalk. But we'll see what happens. That may not be in our time frame. We may not in our time window. We may not be able to see, but who knows? So again, we're sitting at like maybe like a plus 2.5, maybe plus 3. Gonna look at our market profile, take another look at that NQ area. Yeah, so we're in there now. We'll see what kind of response we get, but as of right now, there's no reason to even look to sell. And this would be a situation where if you pull back to this IB high on both sides, this would be a interesting place for potential support. So ideally, if we're still participating and speculating at this point, pull back to this overnight high, maybe the IB range on both sides, because we're about the same structure here. We had an open test drive, and then we coiled for the second bar, tested the lower range of that coiling, and shot up for NQ. We had an open test drive for the A bracket, and we had an open auction for the
Block buy.
ES with some trap sellers at the lows. Kind of coiled a little bit more, and then just an impulse through. So very nice on the activity side for the buyers. Want to see if we see anything unusual for the sell side. for a possible attempt to the short, just given where we're at. But by no means are we trying to like bottom tick or anything. This would be the top of the 15-minute candle. If that's going to be the rejection point, we want to see if we revisit these low 80s, high 70s once more and see how we respond. That's the 15-minute candle there. Should be a very nice impulse through this range. It's gonna definitely gonna attract a lot of
Block
people.
sell.
Gonna put these footprints on 30s. I was gonna try to get in on the sell side for the S&P. Let me check one more thing. And this would be a bit of a front run. Want to see what kind of activity do we have? We had this continuation, and do we find our way back down? NQ still building volume higher. So I end up getting in at the 62 half. So this is a bit of a wider stop. This is more of a higher time frame play. That's what we've been looking at for the past couple of days. Want to see how we
Block
get
sell.
into this range. Again, we're not saying this is like we're not top ticking by any means, but this is just a higher time frame area. We just want to see how we respond. And this would be I believe they refer to it as a version test. If you just want to see a reference of where we are for the ES, we're in this higher range above here. Kind of went through this HVN's high volume node. We're kind of headed back down just a little bit into that little zone. So again, this is 100% like a structure play. And I did this on a small size, just one contract. I'm
Block
willing to
buy.
experience a little heat here.
Block sell.
So I'm actually gonna have to step away for a brief moment. So I wasn't able to really get a good look to see what the bids look like. But I mean, we're doing some nice volume, but we are getting back into that range. We're looking at 11 minutes left.
Block sell.
All right, so I mean, we really just ended up having like a three point risk. I had like a wider stop, but just given the response that we're getting, we really shouldn't have too much of a pullback here. Not through the highs and whole ass excursion. So I might tighten up this stop a little bit. If not, just put it at the HOD. Because not only are we getting the downward pressure, but we're just getting some sort of continuation, and it's happening on both sides. I don't believe I did the quote
Block
board.
sell.
Yeah, just that little flush there. Oop, my apologies there. So again, we saw three bounces. So you would assume a lot of people are gonna think that we'll have another bounce, but we cannot assume. Definitely gonna move up our stop just in case there's like any news or something to the HOD. We really shouldn't see this come back, but we ended up getting this open test like we wanted. Not like we wanted, but we assumed that we were gonna get the open test just given the situation. But we're getting a little bit more, so we actually want to um, have this run a little bit more. This isn't a loser that's going against us. Volume is picking up. We're not done with the 30-minute candle, but this volume has more than the prior two candles. Very similar to yesterday, where that same behavior in a similar area you're not seeing that urgency back up. These aren't really considered cheaper prices from what we can see at the moment. So we're going to go ahead and take our profit here, possibly. Not take our profit, let me not say that.
Block sell.
Interesting. That was a little puke. So we got our low.
Block sell.
All right, I'm putting this at break
Block
even.
sell.
Yeah, we're not gonna choke this trade. We'll see how we respond.
Block buy.
So that wasn't just a bid pull. Some of that was some actual force on the way down. And we held below the open and we held below the open for NQ, and we held below the IB low for ES. Which again, change of character. I'm gonna go ahead and lock our trade screen. Do want to look at something here? The low of day for the prior low is 5607. We're not seeing that same urgency on either side here at the moment. We do have 5 minutes. Just want to look at this 30-minute candle. Quite aggressive. All right, yeah, I'm just gonna step away at this moment. I'm not gonna continue looking at the DOM. Again, I have my account locked. I believe I can still flatten, but all right, I'm putting this on mute. Just step away, get some water, get some sunlight.
Block cell. Block cell.
All right, I'm back. Yeah, I basically have just free risk here. There's no reason I should lose any money. Trying to do move to break even. I need to unlock. Yeah, I really don't want to. I'm actually gonna move my stop. Just it's just funny. I'm just moving my stop just like 4 points down, which is just the high of this structure here. Yeah, I mean, if we end up getting stopped out of this, then by all means, so be it. Uh, it's fine. Just trying to just adjust it a little bit more. But yeah, I mean that'd be the market telling us to get out. I don't think I have a reason to get out. I will say I do want to kind of think this out loud to get my thoughts as I stepped away. So first off, I'm handling this like a boss. Not having a clear objective of where we're headed. I wanted this to be a higher time frame. Like, hey, I don't believe we're gonna go past here. If we're using the auction market theory and just the overall narrative of where we're at, the energy that we've expended going down, and then coming back up with the velocity and the delta, and then the lightening of the volume into a motherfucking high cluster zone since April. I really believe that that would have some kind of force. So I did it with lighter size with the wider stop just to see the initial response, and we ended up getting more of a reaction than I foresaw or that I've really been a part of. That's not like data or catalyst driven. And I would imagine we're gonna have those are the passives on both sides trying to bracket this down. People are getting filled all across the board. We're headed back down, and we're just bouncing up off these lows again. If you want a reminder, just to see where we're at, this was a possible sharp rejection into this
Block
overnight
buy.
zone, but we're starting to bounce back up. So we haven't created a whole low for the day, and our overnight low is at the 17s versus the 7s, which is the low of yesterday. And again, if you look at our homework that we had last night, we had a high showing for Delta yesterday. So definitely I don't know, something was going on yesterday. So I'm not saying that this is a continuation of that, but we are negative as of right now. Volume is picking up relatively speaking, and we're sticking at these lows. As of right now, this would be considered a bear flag. If we're looking for a buy, we'll be looking for an initiative candle. We're not seeing that at the moment. We're seeing a little bit of lethargic behavior. We're already past our hour candle. Just want to see what we look like on a hourly basis. We have our NQ. If you would have told me it would look something like this, I would say that'd be ideal, perfect world. So maybe one of those situations, hey, it'd be too good to be true. But I think that's like limiting belief.
Block sell.
Here for the ES, we end up going into this cluster zone here, which is the middle of July. So we'll see how they respond.
Block sell. Block buy.
Definitely some fighting here on these lows. We have some passive sellers.
Block
Just want to
buy.
give this a chance to breathe. And again, our job here is to make money, not necessarily to be right. So ideally, it would make sense for us to take the profits and move on. However, the market is not showing me any reason for me to do that outside of anything that's coming from my own head and what I'm quote unquote comfortable with doing. So we have all kind of structure. This would be a free trade at this moment. And if I'm willing to risk X amount of points for this particular scenario. This makes sense from a professional standpoint. It's a possibility that we may revisit these highs, and I would have already been stopped out for our with our protective stop for like 3 points. So be it. But we also have our minutes that are happening a little later on.
Block buy.
Who knows what can happen? We literally don't know. So again, we're just gonna exercise our abundant mindset that we have. Understand that we have a potential catalyst today, and we may have a decent spot to get ahead. I don't believe there is any sort of information. I'll go ahead and double check my news feed. I'm gonna go ahead and turn out this chart trade. Close. Because we are done with our positions. Yeah, I don't see any kind of data off that. That was just a strong rotation to the lows. And just to be clear, these are not initiative candles. Yes, this is engulfing. This does make sense a little bit because we're coming from the IB low and we're getting back into the range for the NQ. We're not trading NQ. We are trading the ES. ES closed below their IB low range, and we had our engulfing candle just to get back into the IB low. We still need to work our way up through the mid, through the open. We have to actually hold these with the VWAP, hold these. We're still below the 5 smoothing average. And then we have our IB high to contend with. Once we're past the IB high, you have your former high, this huge cluster zone that we have here. You have this low, and then this high, and then the highs here. And then we're up there. So if you have to go through all that to get to me, by all means, you can take me out that way. This would be an excellent learning lesson, but a true test of letting our winners run and cutting our losers. I think this is a perfect example today of the short that we took a little earlier on with MES, with the start of that B bracket, and we ended up getting out fairly early. So we'll go ahead and leave this for now. I'm gonna jump on mute, take another break, and I'm gonna start my journal. Yeah, I'm gonna start my journal. Horizontal. I gotta remember that. Damn horizontal. All right, I'm out.
Block sell. Block buy.
All right, I will admit I do want to work on potentially adding in this situation. I think here will be like a decent place for you to potential to add. This is where you have that these higher delta, but it's really at the IB high or IB high, which is at the end of this value area, which is where you see these 40s.
Block buy.
So the profits that we're using, ideally we could have just sold and took them there, but we'll be killing our potential reward for
Block buy.
less risk,
Block buy.
possibly getting back in after potential legs up. This definitely is not what I would have wanted to see, but I mean, again, this is what I'm really comfortable with.
Block
I'm a
sell.
little nervous to add, which I really feel like now would be decent, but possibly I want to see what those 40s looks like. What happens when we get out of value? Do you still see that same urgency if we're following the narrative? Because we went above the IB high for NQ, and we're kind of sticking around it for now. Again, we did not break the overnight low for ES. 15-minute candle here. It's just interesting looking. And then just wide. Coiling and then just gets wider. That's crazy. So yeah, I really can't talk too much about the DOM that we're seeing, the activity we're seeing on the DOM. I missed a fair amount of it, but looks like we're starting to slow down a little bit. We're only at the 15-minute mark. This is truly a bearish case. You should see this 30-minute bullish candle have some give back, some potential a potential pullback. But what I was getting to earlier is the fact that we got a good position. We're able to, I wouldn't say risk free, but the fact that we are, well, I mean, it is risk free at this point. We didn't have much heat on that trade, but we're just paying for information here just to see how we're trading, what the potential to kind of get in. Well, excuse me, with the lowest risk that we'll have is a small gain, and we pretty much get free a free ride. So I'm just gonna kind of let this play out. Ideally, if this was to the long side, this would be more ideal.
Block sell.
I just said ideally would be more ideal. So I'm making up my bed right now. I'm
Block
going on with my
buy.
life. Something else that I'm working on. This will build a nice mental muscle as we eventually do swing trades in the future. Closing this door. So yes, we are able to take price and information risk at this time. It was paid for by the market. I had some other people that have a lot more capital than me agree agree with my narrative. They agreed with my narrative, and um, yeah. So they're pretty much going to fund our experience that we have here for today. So I'm trying to take care of a couple things, make my bed. I knocked over something, so I'll be back.
Block sell. Block buy. Block buy. Block buy. Block buy. Block buy. Block by. Block by. Block by. Block by. Block cell. Block cell. Block by. Block by. Block cell. Block cell. Block cell. block cell, block cell, block by, block by, Block cell. Block by. Block by. Block cell. Block cell. Block cell. Block cell. Block by. Block cell. 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 Block by. Block by. Block cell. Block cell.
Hey, we're actually going to go ahead and turn this off. We're still in our position here. Really not too much we're going
Block
to do at the
5.
moment. May or may not offset this as we creep back into this range. But we'll
Block
wait here and
9.
see. We're going to go ahead and cut this video short though. Have a good day.